Hello, everyone out there. This is Matt Halpern here with episode 19 of the Chocolate Croissants podcast. Woohoo! 19 episodes in. Pretty fucking cool. Thank you so much for checking us out and giving this podcast a listen. If you have been with us for this whole time, all of these 19 weeks, we truly appreciate you. The support and the feedback that we've been getting, the reviews, the star ratings, all of that stuff has been incredibly helpful, and we are forever grateful. As always, I'd like to give a quick shout out to everybody who is in our Facebook group. You guys have been fantastic. I love all the banter. I love the questions. I love the answers, and I love the support that's being shown. There's some truly good communication and some real help that I've seen there coming from different party members. And it just really means a lot. So thank you guys. It's really, very cool. If you're not part of the group yet, check us out on Facebook. It's www.facebook.com/groups/chocolate croissants. Later in this episode, Jordan actually talks a little bit further about the group, and we address some questions that came from the group for our guests on this episode. So that's another big perk about of being in the group, is that you can ask questions to the upcoming guests, and we'll make sure to get answers for you as best we can. I would also love to ask all of you beautiful listeners out there for a quick favor. If you're like me and you consume most of your content on your phone, I have an iPhone specifically, then we would be infinitely grateful as well if you would click on your podcast app on your phone, open up the search, and type in Chocolate Croissants. Once you do that, click on the big subscribe button at the top right of your phone screen. Once you do that, you'll be set to receive each episode that we release every Monday. You won't have to think about it, and you'll just have it right there waiting for you. We would really appreciate that. It really helps us, along with any reviews or ratings that you can give us. I'd also like to take a quick moment and thank our current sponsors, Rode Microphones. Rode continue to support us each week. I was actually talking to Matt from Rode Mics down in Australia earlier this week, and he's been super excited about the podcast, and we are super excited that we get to actually present this podcast using their products, because it has really been a lifesaver for us. If you're curious to learn about Rode's products, including their podcast microphones, the USB mic that I'm using right now, and a lot more, you can go to www.rodemic.com. That's RODEMIC.com, or you can check them out via their socials at RODEMIC. Now on to this week's guests. I'm extremely happy to introduce these two amazing people. So we have a husband and wife artist hospitality team who have worked with literally the best of the best. And I mean like everyone. So as an example, Paul McCartney, Beyonce, Coldplay, Metallica, Elton John, and countless other amazing artists. And it's just so cool to have them here to share their story and all of the lessons that they've learned through their work and through their journey as individuals and as a couple. This whole episode is incredibly inspiring, and to be frank, I was completely enamored with the whole conversation. Jordan and Justin even will comment on that in the episode, that I was just like so locked in this whole time. One thing I will ask and encourage is that as you listen to the dialogue in this episode, do yourself a favor and think beyond just the words that you hear and the situations that they're discussing, and try your best to apply the values and the lessons that you hear to your own work and to your own lives. There's a ton to be learned from this episode, and these two people, man, I'm privileged to know them, and I feel privileged to have been part of this conversation. So without further ado, I'd like to present to you episode 19 of the Chocolate Croissants podcast, featuring Andrew and Hanna Cohen of CoCo Hospitality. Hi, Drew. If you have to pee in the middle of this, just do it on the floor. We're at Jordan's place. It doesn't matter.
Thank you.
No worries. Hey, Jordan. What's up, dude?
Man, even Dee Dee has better manners.
Wait.
It's Matt's try at humor.
You guys have to share a mic today.
We got this.
The listeners don't know who Dee Dee is. Can you explain?
Pronouns, pal. So Dee Dee is Matt's dog, Tyson. And Justin and Matt are the ones sharing the mic. And we are here with another power couple, Andrew and Hanna Cohen. Cohen. I've known them for like 12 years. Wait, but I've never introduced you guys like that formally.
That feels
I don't even know what to,
very official.
honestly, I've been friends with you, Drew, since high school.
Yeah.
And I still don't know your name. Like, I'll sometimes call you Drew. I'll look in my phone for Drew to text you, and it's in there as Andy. So what is that?
So as of right now, it's just Andrew. It was Drew from my family, and then high school friends came along and called me Andy. Not my choice. And that was when you met me. And then they started meeting each other in social situations, and they didn't know who they were talking about. So now we're just going by Andrew.
Andrew.
Also, my father's name is Andrew, and everyone calls him Drew. So when we started dating, it was very immediate that he was not Drew to me. So it's been Andrew kind of from the get-go, at least for as long as we've been together, at least in my eyes.
Now, Jordan is going to, he was going to officiate a wedding actually earlier this year. And when Carly and I get married, Jordan is going to officiate that wedding. So now that you're introducing them, can you show us what you got?
Jesus Christ. Put me on the spot.
Well, I mean, I thought that's where you were going. So can you go there?
Well, the one positive here is that they're already married. So you're not going to fuck that up.
But I think I fucked up your last name already. And what do you have if not a last name? It's Cohen.
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 Yeah.
So you kind of got to roll with the H into the E.
I'm down for anything. You say, hey, you, I'm there.
See, that's what's confused everyone about your first name, is that you just allow anyone to pick whatever.
Pretty much. It's probably time to take a stand. So I'm doing it here for the world to hear. It's Andrew Cohen. Remember it.
It's official. So we're here with Andrew and Hanna Cohen. They are the owners and operators and founders and whatever other word, CoCo Hospitality. They tell us that it's an artist hospitality firm. I've never heard the word firm used in that kind of context, but I think it's fucking badass. So congratulations to you guys. So what is that? What and why CoCo?
So CoCo is derived from us joining together. She's now Cohen. I'm Cohen. So it's Cohen and Cohen. Now it also plays to the fact that we consider ourselves a concert concierge. We, as an artist hospitality company, are acting as a concierge to these artists that are coming through. So it works on multiple levels.
I think concierge is a really douchey word, kind of like charcuterie, so I said it wasn't okay. But we know that the name kind of comes from that still.
And charcuterie is legit.
But saying concierge in that context, actually, I don't think is douchey.
Really?
Yeah, I think
that
it's
makes
awesome.
me feel better. Okay, cool.
Well, as an artist who employs these services, is that something that makes you feel like you're getting something maybe more elevated in a service?
I'm sorry, do you think I'm in like a big band? Because we don't employ hospitality services or a concierge. We kind of just get shit like meat thrown at us and like some cheese sometimes, and they just let us sit in the corner and use a bucket to go poopy. That's about it at our shows. However, in the big time, concierge or hospitality are terms that, I think are fucking awesome. Ask Mark Holcomb, he'll tell you. We've like pooped in holes before. We've talked about this on the podcast.
Well, we all have.
I know. Well, that's true.
Anyway, so, okay, so, God, man, you threw me off, man.
All right. So what is it? Okay. Obviously, I think people can gather that you offer services for artists, but what does that mean exactly? And what artists? Who are the artists you work with? What services? What kind of concierge?
Our company is kind of broken up into 4 different factions. The majority of what we do, kind of the backbone of what we do, is a dressing room hospitality. So dressing room and green room, VIP experiences, that kind of thing. If an artist is coming in and has a specialized list of things that they want, we're going to be the ones that go and shop for that, make sure it's there, make sure it looks pretty, be on site, be their person all day to get them whatever they need. Another part of that kind of bleeds into it is catering for the crew and all of the people that kind of come along with the artist. So in our company, a lot of the buildings we work in, the main building we work in is MGM, and they're really set up to offer lots of food. So we're not really a caterer in that sense, but we can facilitate any kind of specialty artist meals through a chef or through some kind of a specialty caterer we bring in for different things. And
if an artist says to you, "Hey, I want In-N-Out Burger,"
Here on the East Coast, that's very hard.
On the East Coast, yes, but if you're, I mean, so I'm wondering, I'm curious if you guys ever actually hire services out to go on tour with artists and act as like a traveling concierge.
We would love to get to that point. It's one of our goals, I think, to get to that point. I'm sorry, I'm not talking close enough to the mic. It's one of our goals to get to that point for sure. We do a little bit of touring ourselves. But at this point, we're trying to station everything and just really build it up regionally. So we're working in buildings and with promoters that are more regional. But, you know, if there was an artist that was West Coast based and really wanted an In-N-Out burger, we have chefs who would probably go and figure out exactly what's in that animal sauce and make it to the best ability they could.
I'm going to move to the West Coast and then hire you just so we can find a chef to do that for me and not actually go to In-N-Out Burger. I want that right now.
Cool. Awesome.
So you come off a bit modest in how you describe what you guys are doing, but one of the reasons why I'm so excited to share your story publicly is because, I mean, you just own your own business and you have contracts or deals with like Live Nation. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned, MGM National Harbor, I guess is right outside of DC, or it is DC?
It's still in it's Oxon Hill, Maryland.
Okay.
Beautiful Oxon Hill.
Drive through DC to get there.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
but
right
like
on the edge.
a legit, like a multi-million-dollar complex. And what does it cap out? Like 5,000-6,000 people? But it's like an arena.
Not even. It's they have a really interesting model. They are bringing in arena and stadium size act, but the whole thing is predicated upon offering a premium experience. So they cap at about, I believe it's 3,400 people, but they just had the Who there. So they'll offer this experience you can't get elsewhere.
Yeah.
So they are trusting you guys to provide the artists that they book and promote with world-class, artist hospitality. So like that's no small feat. That's amazing.
Especially with a band like The Who have been around longer than we've all been alive. I mean, that's impressive. And so, I mean, the question I have, I want you guys to like brag for a minute. Who have you worked for, or who haven't you worked for that matter?
So right off the bat, the person that we haven't worked for that we're hoping to is Bruno Mars.
Oh, but that's coming. We hear that's coming on our spoiler alert, inside scoop. But we hear that's hopefully coming, knock on wood.
Didn't Bruno, did he not come to MGM? I thought he did.
He did.
He did opening night?
But they cycled through a couple different types of catering companies before they got to us. I think we were their third try. So we didn't come into MGM until I think February, which was their second month of operation. And Bruno came in December. He was one of their first shows.
And you guys do every show there, or is it something that...
We do.
Every show?
Yep.
And is that just contracted that you guys are the go-to hospitality for every single show? And does that run for a certain amount of time and then you have to renegotiate, or it's just open-ended?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as of right now, until they say we don't want you here anymore, we are their sole provider of backstage hospitality. So
And
every
that's-
artist that comes in, every private event that comes in that has an artist that they've hired as well, we are the people that do that.
Yeah.
So-
And that's
wait, go
thanks
ahead.
to Live Nation.
Yeah.
Like that's totally can throw that out to begin with. They're the ones who
Absolutely.
brought us in that building, and we owe our company actually to Live Nation.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, okay, but go back and just keep rolling people off. 'Cause I'm excited.
Sorry.
My big one was Aretha Franklin. I died and then died again because she's hilarious and what she does backstage. She's super old school. I mean, we've done this for a number of years now, and when we do probably I don't know, more than dozens of shows, it's kind of one of those things where not to sound like a total asshole, but there's so much of a list, it's hard to even start on it.
Give me 5. Okay, so we got Aretha Franklin, we got The Who.
Blink-182 was fucking cool.
Okay. Blink-182. What about Metallica? They were just here.
Yeah, we did.
There?
Yeah, we did a really cool a VIP room we did their dressing rooms as well as the VIP room for all of the Live Nation heads that came in from all over the country, and did a really sick catering setup and decor in that room as well.
Can you give us any details? So go back. You were in Aretha Franklin. You were losing it over Aretha, right? Is there anything you can divulge? Can you talk about the actual experience? And then for you, did you have to break character and be human for a second? Be like, I know I'm supposed to be professional, but
The only person I've really lost my shit over was Beyonce, and that's a very real statement. Like, it is actively hard to hold your shit together on a Beyonce day. But Aretha Franklin's funny, and I don't think this is like secret knowledge, but she requests her payment in cash, and then everybody who works for her lines up outside of her dressing room, and she pays them in cash.
That's so old school. And that's so badass.
It was the coolest thing. We were at the Meyerhoff a couple years ago and just like waiting to clean her dressing room because there was a line of fucking people outside waiting to get paid. Like that was awesome.
So did we get our top fives? Beyonce in that that five?
Beyonce's definitely in that. Paul McCartney was amazing.
Give us 10.
Elton John.
Oh, Elton John's are like
You toured with him, didn't you?
we tour with them like twice a year. And they're like for the past 5 years we got engaged when we were on the road with them. They were playing Jazz Fest on the day of our wedding, so unfortunately they weren't able to come. But those are people we call family, and definitely without a doubt the top of the list. They're amazing.
Is that where you guys started? Was Elton John the first tour?
No, Drake was my first tour, and that was terrible. The worst, like the absolute worst experience of my life, but I grew so much from it. But kind of talking about Elton, not to tell your story, but the first Elton tour we did was 2 weeks after Andrew's father passed. And to go through that experience together, we were still really new doing the job. And to get through that tour, and the tour sent Andrew's mother flowers as a thank you for allowing her son to be on the road with them. And that kind of speaks to how wonderful they are as a crew and how much we love to be with them. But yeah, that was crazy.
So just real quick, I would imagine going on the road after something like that happening, it's actually therapeutic. The work, it forces you to go on with it, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I had that experience, and we talked about it on the podcast with my dog, where I was away and I was on tour, and the only thing that kept me from breaking down after losing him was the consistent work every day, the constant movement every day, needing to be around for other people, right? And obviously it's a very different thing, losing a dog versus losing a dad. I mean, they're family members, but still it's a big difference, you know? So I would imagine that was probably the best place to be, in a way. I don't know if you thought of it like that. I'm just, you know.
No, absolutely. I mean, it was certainly a trying experience. Hannah was there for obviously 100% of all the different ebbs and flows and different emotions that you go through. And I do agree that working through it and having a purpose, and also being able to have a little bit of distance from just geographically, as well as just in like a world sense and a career sense, was indeed very enlightening, and showed that although this very intense and personal thing happened, life does go on. And it also, through experiences and bonding with that many people constantly, and realizing that my story is not unique, although it feels very personal, wasn't alone in that, and that was special. That really did help.
Yeah, people on the road who do that for a living, they lose friends, family members, and they have to deal with it while being away. And I think you're right that the geography of it in and of itself helps, because it's like, wow, it makes you realize how small you are, and how small, as you said, how not unique the situation is, especially in that world, you know?
Yeah, I think that's one of those weird things. I mean, you find that as you have these more personal and singular experiences, as they feel at the time, they wind up being more universally relatable in some sort of weird way. Like, you think, oh, I like M&Ms is more relatable to everybody because everyone likes M&Ms. But really, it's having that experience and realizing that you can relate to other people in a very deep sense through it.
Yeah, yes. Well,
I hope that made sense.
No, it does. I mean, it's very easy to know that most people in the world will like candy, right? They'll like M&Ms. You don't always feel like, oh, like everybody's lost a family member. Everybody can relate to that. But in reality, everybody can relate to that in this world. So it is, it's eye-opening in that sense. which is very cool.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool that you're demonstrating vulnerability and sharing this, and a lot of people listening to this are going to find a lot of value in this whole episode. And I think where I'm going with this is that I know, based on just what we see in the Facebook group we have every day, there's a lot of people paying attention to these episodes that are interested in music or musicians themselves, and they want to do something similar to what you guys are doing. The difference is like you're actually doing it. So what I'd like to do, now that we've kind of teed up who you guys are and what you're doing, is how you got to that point. So I know Andrew and I, as I said, met in high school. We were in a guitar class. You were like the only bass player in that class. But you were this like weird punk kid to me. You'd wear like all black and like baggy shit with like patches. And I never had
changed my pants, but I used to change the patches onto them.
Okay, like Operation Ivy type stuff.
Yeah, man.
Right, which I never listened to, and it was a culture that I wasn't like I didn't really know much about it. But you seemed like a very nice guy, and I remember in that guitar class we did a unit where everybody just brought in a song to introduce to the class, and you brought in Refused, Shape of Punk to Come, that record, and I was like, oh shit, I can talk to this guy now. So you've always been a musician. You're a bass player. Yeah, and we really got more close. The band that Justin and I were playing in, we would gig a lot with different bands that you were in at the time, right?
Yes, indeed.
So was that always like the first, I guess, dream that you had? Was it bass, guitar, and playing in a rock band?
To be honest, well, bass, no. I think my first dream was just straight guitar, but the longtime guitarist, my first cousin, as well as a friend of ours, Trevor, already filled that role. And he said, hey, we need someone to play bass. Here's a bass. And just kind of took that and ran with it, and miraculously really dug just dug the instrument. You know, the mixture of medley, but also percussion.
Mm-hmm. And Hannah, we met you. Let's give it up for Andrew.
You want to say that again?
So Hannah, we met you a couple years later through a bunch of mutual friends in the music scene that we were all a part of and creating. This was like, I guess, 2005, 2006 or so. So how did you get introduced to music and music culture?
I think that I have to give that credit to my sister, because she was in and around the Adelphi days. And so I remember her taking me to a record show and seeing Ryan Keaton with pink hair and being like, oh my goodness, this is the coolest thing that's ever happened. And just continuing to make friends and become involved. And through that, I ended up, just becoming friends with people and growing, years later into managing some of those bands and kind of honing my chops in the industry, or really realizing that I wanted to work in the music industry because of this cool scene that we were building together. But yeah, no, I just got lucky enough to be hang around all you cool people and make hard eyes at this one sitting next to me at was it Dunkin' Donuts? Baskin Robbins?
It was a combination Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh, it's St. John's Hamilton.
Across the street from St. John's Hamilton. Yeah. So it's been a long road that thankfully has given me Andrew and a career. So thank you, Baltimore pop rock music scene.
So wait, Hannah, did you meet Andrew while he was playing in a band at St. John Hamilton?
Absolutely.
But you guys were across the street at the Baskin Robbins / Dunkin' Donuts.
Sure were.
And what's that story? Who came up to who?
Matt likes the gossip.
I can tell this because our relationship kind of spans over the course of many years, and he can come up with an anecdote a couple years later that really burns me, so I can burn him right now.
Wait, but this is great because a lot of our listeners might want to know how to pick up a significant other.
Oh yeah.
Right? And so
what's up, Kevin the drummer?
What's up, Kevin the drummer? Shout out to Kevin the drummer, my homeboy. Okay, so let me go ahead, Drew. Let's please.
Oh, yeah. So I was super into Andrew. It was something between the blonde streak and his faux hawk and his American Eagle skinny jeans that really drew me to him. And unfortunately, there were a lot of other ladies in his life at the time. And as is the case with all of you very cool guys in bands that were playing in church basements, but let's be real here. But yeah, no, there were a couple other girls that he had his eye on, and it wasn't in the cards for me at that moment. But years down the road, tides kind of changed, and Andrew, you can tell that story.
Did you form a friendship at that time?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think so. Like, not as deep at that point in time, but like, I think a couple years later, we started to become real friends.
Were you guys like top 8 on MySpace?
Definitely not.
Okay, so not that serious at that point.
Not that serious, yeah, no. But I really liked his band, and I will say, kind of as a dorky anecdote, I still have a Brighter Shades CD in my car. So do my parents.
Man, Brighter Shades was awesome.
Brighter Shades were so good. Thank you. Like, sorry, I am such a fangirl for him. I love that I got Andrew when he wasn't in a band. Like, that makes me so happy because I never wanted to date a band boy, but like, I got the best of both worlds for sure. Very lucky.
That's awesome. All right, so
a couple years later, blonde streak.
Couple years later, give me like sans blonde streak. You reconnect.
So yeah, we had reconnected briefly for summer, and it seemed like we were both interested in each other. I had allowed that to fizzle out, or for whatever reason, one reason or another. It's not that it ended badly; it just kind of ended. Summer was over. We were going our separate ways.
I was in school in Philadelphia, so I wasn't here.
And I think I realized that I would have liked to have put a little more effort into that relationship. And upon making that known, Hannah was just in a different point in life and had graciously said, "I appreciate the sentiment." Which was very diplomatic, which somehow cut pretty deep for some reason.
So you shut him down?
Yeah.
Fuck.
At a bowling alley show.
Wow.
That I think Never the Machine Forever was playing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How many years after the Dunkin' Donuts / Baskin Robbins Hard Eyes did this then happen?
4 or 5. Because I was in college.
This is a long time coming.
Yeah, we've known each other for a really long time.
Right.
Okay, so
I want to go back to, I guess, that period of time in the Dunkin' Donuts. So you were in high school at the time, Hannah?
Yeah.
So what I think is really cool, and I know Justin and I, it's probably the greatest, quote, college experience we ever had, was being in that music scene. And Hannah, you said it was inspiring for you to see all these different people close to your age actually creating in the world and just living out dreams and building stuff. Mm-hmm. And I guess at that point you realized you were interested in pursuing something in the music industry. And I think it's, for someone listening, that's like the best advice I can give, is just like, do it. You know, and it's obviously helpful if you can join community, find a way to add value to a community that already exists, whether it's a community of people creating video content or putting on and performing concerts, whatever it is that you're interested in. It's find a way to add value to community. And at least for Justin and I, we realized, oh shit, we can actually live out dreams when we're 17, 18 years old. And that's what gives us the confidence to this day to be like, oh, that seems really attractive in the world. Well, what's stopping me from getting it? Like, nothing but fear of going after it. So I think it's cool that you were exposed to that culture at such an impressionable age to realize I can actually make a go at this. Mm-hmm. So you went to Drexel in Philly, right?
I did. And not to detract from that at all, but one of the best pieces of advice I got in my entire life was in high school and right around the time where I was kind of involving myself with band stuff. And it was from my vocal teacher in high school, because I went to a magnet school, it was public, but Carver, I don't know if anyone from Baltimore is listening, but I was a vocal music student. So I did a lot of singing, a lot of musical theater. I thought I was going to go to college for musical theater. Like, that was my path. And my teacher just said, you know, like, do you love it? because to be successful in life, you need to figure out what you love to do and then figure out a way for someone to pay you to do that thing. And I took that to heart in such a very real way and was like, that's when I realized that I loved the environment of live music. And I loved being at St. John's Hamilton. I loved being at Wrecker. I loved selling merch. I loved being involved with these bands. And that's really what inspired me to find the program at Drexel that I did and go and study music industry. And without that piece of advice, I don't think that both of us would be here today, it was really important. It's probably one of the most important things I've ever listened to in my life. Thanks, Dr. Walker.
That's awesome. I was just going to comment on the fact that it also takes persistence to get this stuff done. And it seems like you had obviously or have exercised a lot of persistence in order to get shut down by Hannah and then now be married to her. So again, not to go back from what Jordan was asking about, but I want to hear the rest of this part of the story. I'm all about the drama. Come on, it's love. Everybody loves that.
I wish I could say it was all that drama filled. I think that I took that and just said to myself, okay, this is not the time. I mean, persistence certainly, but patience as well. Having faith that I think that we liked each other on some planes. You know, we became very close friends after that, and neither of us was going to push that out of the boundaries of comfort until one day it just kind of, things in our lives circumstantially came back around, and we said, let's try and give this a real go. Let's make this work. We were the right people at the right time in the right place, and we weren't that before. And so if we hadn't gone through all that and gone through what had happened after we sort of deflected each other, we wouldn't be who we are today and who we can be for each other.
It was very important for us to go through the relationships we did have to be in the place where we ended up together to start our relationship, because there's so much you gain from shitty relationships and dating the wrong person that teaches you how to be with the right person. And I think that was really important for us. Like, there was never a point, for as long as I knew Andrew, for as many times as he came over to my parents' house in the middle of the night and we sat outside just talking about life, he never made a move on me. He was never creepy. It was just such a genuine, sincere friendship or very, very organically. I think that was the key word to our entire relationship when we started it, because both of us had just come out of long-term relationships and we weren't looking to be in anything. It was just like, okay, this feels right. We're going to try it, but we're not going to push it. We're just going to let it be. And it grew into something that was really meaningful. And I think that really strong base of friendship we had been able to build over those years was really the catalyst for that. Proud wife, very lucky.
Well, that's really cool. And obviously you guys have a very strong connection, because I would imagine that it's very hard for some couples to be around each other as much as you guys might be around each other, because you live together, you're married, you work together, you not only work together, but you own the business together, which is a whole other thing. So have you had to set boundaries for when it's time to talk business, when it's time to give ourselves date night, when it's, do you know what I mean? Like how do you compartmentalize the different, positions you have to take in the relationship?
Sure thing. I think it's a little bit of a multifaceted answer to give, only because for us, because it is something that so genuinely speaks to who we are, what we're doing. We love it so deeply. It is so, and everything that we do comes very much from our passions in life that has come together, that we don't really have much of a work-life balance to say. I mean, like, we live this, we breathe it every single day. When we leave the apartment and we go in two separate cars, we're calling each other to talk about what's coming up, because
it's really sad. We were talking about this. Like, yeah. I love him to death, and thankfully this works for us right now. We definitely acknowledge that we might hit a point where we look at each other and go, I can't be with you all day. And that's okay. Like that is
Yeah.
okay. But for right now, we just like truly enjoy working together. And through our journey the last couple years professionally in kind of being more apart than we have been and then coming back together again, there's a lot of value in us in our teamwork. And there's a lot of happiness in our lives that is derived from being with each other. And that is kind of weird and is definitely not everyone's cup of tea, but it just works for us really well right now. And so we're leaning into it.
One quick question, just to tail end that. So you mentioned that you've been apart too for different jobs. How does that compare to working together? I mean, is it basically that you're saying that you would much prefer to be together?
It sucks.
Yeah.
Okay, got
It sucked hard.
It sucks.
We decided at a certain point that we wanted to like get off the road and all of that, and we had probably written off the music industry. We started going into special events and decor, thinking that that might be the next path we wanted to take. And we worked for the same company still. We sat next to each other every day,
Yep.
but we didn't talk to each other for 8 hours. We were both absorbed in our work and learning that craft and all of that. And I think And that was probably one of the more rough periods of our relationship for a solid year. Just that going from being able to understand what the other person needs and what they're thinking the second as everything's happening in real time versus being mentally in your own head just trying to pick up this new skill. So hopefully it can come back together one day and we can work together again one day. It was rough.
It was very lonely. Like, not to sound super codependent, because for a very long time in our lives, given that we've been working together from day one. I brought in Andrew as my quote unquote assistant 2 weeks into us dating, and we've been working together ever since. So like, that's really all we know. And so to go from that type of connection to working for the same company, but being so separate, it felt very isolated. It was very sad, and it was important because you have to learn that autonomy. We need separate skills. Like it's life skills. Like you need that. That's important. But at the same time, it was so evident to us that like, we're better together. Right now in our lives, we're a great team, and it makes us happy to be working together. So why don't we just try to figure out a way to do that? And thankfully, the roads in our life, in our career, have led to the point where we're able to do that again. And we're lucky. We're really lucky.
With all the work you guys are doing currently, how do you find a balance, actually find time for just the two of you to go on a date, to go to dinner, watch a movie, talk about something, or even just go hang out and talk about work and what you guys love and don't love, the ups and downs and everything? Do you allow yourself time away, or does it always feel like we're on 24/7?
Game of Thrones every Sunday, no exceptions, for sure.
So you take every Sunday off, even if it's the best gig in the world?
I think that there are moments where we can look at each other and go, we need to go to dinner. Like, we need to go and sit down across from the table from each other and drink a glass of wine and feel like people. Because we do throw ourselves into work so much. So we can probably be better about it, but we do recognize moments where we just need to like be appreciative for an opportunity or just be appreciative for each other. Andrew, not to be super sappy, Andrew makes me feel amazing about myself every day. He makes me feel appreciated every day. And to be able to live in that kind of a headspace is a gift. So like, it's, again, not to sound like a crazy person, but like there are moments where we look at each other and we go, we're so lucky to be doing this. Like we were in our trailer at Moonrise today. Like, this is our trailer. That's our golf cart with our name on it outside. Like, this is cool. Good job, us. Like, and you have to, because those moments are really fleeting and you work really hard for them. And, but yeah, I think went on a tangent. Apologies.
No, but I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I think that's just something in general that's not talked about enough. It's just one's self-talk, right? And that's the conversation that we're engaged with more than anyone. And I think the fact that, as you said, in a relationship, you guys help fill each other's esteem in that sense. But even to have the moments of appreciation and gratitude and awareness of, oh shit, this is where I am right now, and this is really awesome. And like, I worked to get here, and that helps create perspective. And And even in the sense of maybe I'm frustrated because this is going on in my life. Well, that frustration and actually owning it is what's going to create the friction to motivate you to go for something that feels better in life. And I just think the concept of the conversations we have with ourselves is so undervalued. And I think we take it for granted because often we don't even have awareness or consciousness that it's actually happening. But I think that is so valuable for people to hear. And I think a lot of people may hear that and initially be like, oh, that's inflated ego. And I call bullshit on that. I mean, that's like true self-esteem. And I think that those qualities within you guys and within your relationship is a big ingredient to the success that you guys are currently having and continuing to have in your growth as a business.
I think it's also really great for people to hear two people that it took years for you guys to finally come together. That's a great story in its own right. And then to hear how both of you light up each other's day, even though you're working together full time. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who have seen relationships where people work together and it's just not healthy. And even when they realize, like how you guys say, Hannah was saying, you realize we need to go sit across from each other and get dinner and just talk about life and drink wine and whatever. It's great that you guys recognize that. I think a lot of people may think about the relationship where people work together all day long, day in and day out, as something negative, but you guys are highlighting how it can be so positive for one another. And I think that's awesome.
Yep. He's fully stuck with me, ladies and gentlemen. He legally signed onto this life, and I'm not letting him go. I'm very lucky.
So you said Moonrise. Moonrise is an electronic dance music festival. It's happening this weekend in Baltimore.
It is.
One, can you guys talk about that? And then two, can you talk about what the setup is for you guys? How many days leading up to the festival? What you guys are doing, and then what a typical day will look like at a festival like that when you're working.
Who wants to handle this one?
Drew, Andrew.
I will give it the old try. So anyway, so Moonrise Festival is an electronic dance music festival. It happens here in Baltimore, Maryland. Pulls in some of the largest names in electronic music. Happens over the course of 2 days. It's in its fourth year currently. Now, whatever festival you're seeing, whether that's Coachella, Lollapalooza, Firefly, Bonnaroo, Moonrise, there is a lot of stuff that happens months in advance. Anywhere from like as soon as the last festival ends, the day afterwards, they start planning the next one. So for us, our sort of advanced work in terms of getting all the pieces together starts a solid, I'd say, month out, 2 months out of building up
Moonrise, 2 months out.
Yeah, for Moonrise, 2 months out. Putting together the pieces of what is it, in the context of artist hospitality, what is it that all the artists are going to want? How can they fit into the physical space that we have on site? Because, you have a finite amount of space, a finite amount of dressing rooms to work with. And just making sure that everybody feels like they're taken care of and they're heard.
I just had a question.
Yeah.
Do you go through every artist separately and every artist's rider separately to figure out how different they are and how you can customize the experience? Or in a situation like this where you probably have some artists who are in and out, literally, like they show up, they play, they leave. Is it more of a kind of everybody gets the same treatment thing, except maybe the things in the dressing room are a little different? I mean, do you see what I'm saying? Like, is there a big difference with something like that?
It changes based upon the festival. Every festival kind of has a different system for how they work that. For Moonrise, it's tiered. So you're obviously paying more attention to your top tiers than you are, somebody that's local and maybe playing, earlier on in the day.
What's up, Race Car Bed?
Hey, Race Car Bed, we love you. No, but we all, it's my favorite time of year. Hi, Bagel and Stan, because we get to hang out with Bagel and Stan, truly.
They're playing the Road to Moonrise with
Hell yeah.
Architects tonight.
Tonight.
Yay,
In
go see Race Car
Virginia?
Bed.
In DC.
In DC.
Hell yeah.
There you go.
They're the greatest. We
Shout
love
out
them.
to Race Car Bed.
It's like highlight of Moonrise is getting to see Bagel and Stan, truly. Like, really is.
No one listening, not no one, but for those listening who don't know who Bagel and Stan are, we'll have them on sometime.
So
Yeah.
the band that Justin and I were in, Stan handled like keys and electronics, and Bagel was actually our light guy.
Bagel introduced himself yesterday on the Family Matters.
Yeah, say what's up to Bagel. Eric Stevens in the Chocolate Croissants podcast Facebook app
He's the greatest.
Group.
Anyway, so with these tiered systems, you guys are paying more attention to the top tiers. So what does the difference look like between the different tiers?
For Moonrise specifically, like they have because you to try to even like go through 65 to 85 writers or however many artists you have is a nightmare. So they build a system where they say, okay, we're providing you with an artist lounge that has an open bar based upon, what we see on writers in terms of liquor selection, things like that. We're giving you a high-end catering experience. We're going to give you a dressing room for an appropriate amount of time around your set. Unfortunately, given the circumstances, we're not going to give you your full rider, but tell us what 3 most important things we can get for you. And a lot of time there's wiggle room with that. If, it's funny, we have one artist that doesn't ask for anything but espresso and water. And while it's kind of annoying to think about getting an espresso machine, Andrew and I have so much respect for someone who just wants to stay caffeinated and hydrated. We ordered an espresso offline, and that motherfucker is going to have an espresso machine in his dressing room.
Pulling all the shots.
Do you guys deal directly with each artist's tour manager, or do you deal? Okay, so I was gonna say, or do you deal with the promoter who handles all of that stuff?
It
Both.
varies between
Yeah.
tour managers or their agencies that are representing them. Ultimately, there is an online portal that sort of pulls everything together, and then our contacts are listed for that. If anybody wants to have a further conversation, they're able to do so.
That's awesome. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
but I mean that Moonrise is very different in terms of how we handle hospitality to like Firefly, which is our other kind of our main project during the year, which is a totally different festival, totally different ball game, and we handle those requests much differently than we do with Moonrise. So it's interesting to kind of ebb and flow through different types of festivals and do lots of different things.
Firefly had Paul McCartney last year? Or
Firefly
2 years ago?
had Paul McCartney 2 years ago. Yeah.
So what was that like? Was that more unique compared to the normal artist?
So that was unique in the sense that Paul McCartney, as do a number of top tiered artists like that, will travel with their own catering versus relying on the catering contacts, which can vary from festival to festival or market to market. They have strict dietary restrictions, and so they want to control that and know that they're going to have a good meal everywhere they go. So they brought that in versus it really us handling the rider directly. We just facilitated and made sure that they had everything they need to have a successful day.
Which included, not at that point in time, this was before we kind of had our brains in decor. But Paul McCartney here at Firefly was actually the first year I remember standing in a space saying, we could decorate this. We could do this. I can understand how this all comes together. And seriously, it's very crazy to say 2 years later, we were standing in those same spaces designing them, which is bananas to me still. But the thing about Paul McCartney is that because he's a Beatle, he designed and required a complete redesign of the complex backstage. So the way that we work Firefly is I'm in the main compound down with the majority of artists, and Andrew handles the 2 or 1 most important person that comes on site every day. And we completely designed that entire backstage compound based upon the needs of his chef and the amount of dressing rooms he needed and how he needed them laid out. And every other artist throughout the entire festival dealt with that compound based upon his needs. Because, when you have a Beatle, you do what the Beatle wants.
Is that something that comes naturally for you guys, or have you had prior experience in interior design?
It's funny. I have always really loved decorating spaces, but never was cognizant about it. I think that I was way more music focused than I ever was kind of being in tune to that side of myself. But what we do now, we talk about a lot because it's hospitality. It's we don't cook. We're not chefs by any means, but we love making people feel welcome. We love creating inviting spaces and inviting environments for people. And that combines our love of good food and booze and interior design and things that we never really tapped into until, I guess, this part of our lives. But yeah, it's cool.
So it's Wednesday night right now. The the festival that you guys are working this weekend at Pimlico, it starts Saturday morning and goes into Sunday. But you said you guys are heading over to Pimlico Racetrack after we record, and it's already almost 9:30 at night. So what will you guys be doing tonight? And then morning of Saturday, when the festival actually starts at Moonrise, what does that look like? Is it just constantly putting out fires?
Not necessarily fires. There's a lot that goes into building a site out of nothing. So this evening when we go back, because we do have a hand in decor, making sure that the spaces look welcoming, we are heading back to sort of fill out the rest of our punch list, making sure that one of the top rooms that we're heading up, that the details on that are all taken care of. In addition to that, we're also getting ready for the next day. So that way when we have a team coming in, it doesn't often register that you have to have a list of things ready to keep your team moving and motivated and going. It's not something that, at least for me personally, comes naturally. I have to really think it out and list it out. And that's something I've learned pretty well from Hannah, because otherwise I'm just running around with like a chicken with my head cut off. So I don't think I said that idiom correctly, but anyway.
We'll consult with Jimmy Haha about that.
Thank you very much. So for the rest of the night, we'll be going in, we'll be designing a couple more dressing rooms, getting ready and set for the next day, making sure that we're all set there. Come day of the festival, at that point, everything leading up to it should be all of your preparation. When you're actually at the event, you should just be executing. You shouldn't have to be preparing at that point, because those little things, those squeaky wheels that you could have taken care of ahead of time, they grow bigger and louder, and they get in the way of any sort of like good product you're trying to put out. Instead of like, if you allow that squeaky wheel to keep going on, you'll just be able to put out your baseline good. You won't be able to excel or exceed or put out the product that you really want to, and you know you can.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a huge attention to detail there.
Yes.
And is that based off of your guys' experience and just saying, I know what needs to be done at this point, having worked with so many people? Or something that I know that like my tour manager would hugely appreciate, is it that you take these, for the top artists that you work with, ones you are giving more attention to, you take their riders and you comb through them like meticulously to find every little small detail. So is that Andrew? Is that like your job in that sense, to like to prepare that way? Because I can't tell you how many times promoters or venues we worked with, it like probably take our rider and wipe their asses with it, and then give us, as I said, like a plate of like meat and cheese, and then it's like, have a nice day. Well, and that's okay. It happens. It's good. But the other side of that is, I think, the level at which you're working, which is top tier. So what is that? Is that, again, is it experience and you just know what works, or is it meticulously fine-toothed combing through?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, we've gotten our asses handed to us a couple of times, so that way we know not to do something in the future.
Hard lessons have been learned for sure. It's a lot of like gut reactions to like, oh no, don't do that because bad things will come.
Right.
But yeah, Andrew's amazing at going through riders and asking questions about things that, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty hospitality minded and I wouldn't even think of. He can anticipate need like nobody's business, and is just so kind in a way. Like, to be good at this job is very interesting. Not to go off on a total,
Go for it.
Whatever. But like when we worked at Revolution, when both of us worked at Revolution, we were starting, it was our first year there. It was so hard because everybody constantly told us that we were too nice, because we came from a world where our success was predicated on saying yes, was in making it happen no matter what. And so when it was a totally different situation when you're dealing with the clients in that scope, and in special events, when you do have to say no, you do have to be a little bit harder handed on things. And I think when Andrew decided to leave Revolution and start our company, it was one of the big, like when Andrew left Revolution, everyone was stoked for him. everyone was so supportive and so wonderful because they knew that it was exactly what he was meant to do. He's so good at it. It's this perfect combination of personality traits that he has in terms of kindness and conscientiousness and attention to detail and like OCD in a weird way where he's going to recognize wording in some sentence that is probably a typo, but he's going to call the tour and ask about it and probably make them feel bad about the typo because he's trying to just so closely
Not
discern what
intentionally.
they need. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. We go probably more far into it than we need to sometimes, but making that phone call before the show, when you do talk to that tour manager, just showing them that you give a shit is 75% of that battle.
Yeah.
100, like every time.
And so kind of, why not? Let's tangent out. Going with that, so if I were to receive your rider, I've probably written it in 2 or 3 different ways. I've broken that down. I look at it, how, like, can I shop that? Like, what are all the beverages on this? What is all the alcohol? What is all the non-perishables? Where are my pinch points? Does this make sense? Can I get this? And then, we'll reach out and, as Hannah was saying, and make that sort of connection. And where that all kind of comes from, and is sort of a different point to make, is just little piece of advice is in diversifying your interests. Like I really, let's say I liked wine, but I don't like whiskey. Well, people that are coming to me really like whiskey, so I need to learn about whiskey, or I need to learn about these different cheeses. I've taught myself at this point to like whiskey, to like blue cheese, to like be able to discern all those things and get into the mindset of who is going to be enjoying these things. Why are they enjoying these things? I mean, at the end of the day, you're traveling around the world, and you just want to be comfortable. You just want the things that you like. And it's my job to get into your head and feel what your personality is in that moment. And really at the end of the day, like, how are you just going to enjoy being in the place you're at, and how is that going to affect your performance? Because ultimately it could affect everything in that sense.
That's the key to the success right there. The 2 things that you guys just said is evident, or is enough evidence for me to understand that you guys are going to be doing this for a very long time if you want to, because it's rare that my tour manager says, man, this venue is on top of their shit. Hospitality is all over it. They reached out to me, advance of me advancing with them. And that's badass. I mean, when that happens, like, my tour manager is so stoked. He's like, he like showers and combs his hair that day, like for real. And like wants to look good because he's like feeling good. And then the other aspect of that is like, if the fact that you can relate to the interests or the preferences that these artists have, it's just, I mean, that's like the clincher. It's like if I were, X artist, whoever it is, coming in, and I said, man, I'm really digging this Rum Runner cheese from Whole Foods, which is a cheese that you can get at Whole Foods. And you were like, oh yeah, that is a great cheese. But you know what? Here's 3 more that are actually kind of similar that we thought you would like to try. And I would imagine that's kind of what you're referring to. And that's like, holy fuck, these people are just on their shit. How do I get you all the time?
Side note, it's kind of cool to like, because we see people come around a couple of times, and so it's cool to have introduced an artist to something and then see that on their rider the next time they come around. You're like, in a weird small way, and I know that I'm just kind of like, patty. Yeah, it absolutely is.
It's Andrew's very favorite thing. Like, there's probably very few things that bring him more joy than being like, I did that. I showed them that brand of, I don't know, coconut water has been it.
Harmless
for
Harvest,
sure.
by the way. Big shout out if anyone ever messed with Harmless Harvest. Do that, or get yourself a Young Thai coconut and punch a hole right in it.
Yeah.
I think it's really amazing to see such a different look at maybe not even just aspects of something that a profession people wouldn't be that aware of, but to see all these nuances of this. I mean, you've taken on such an interesting business that most people are unaware of, and then you're showing it in such a great light where you're showing, look at all these other aspects you wouldn't have even thought of when you think about this, of how cultured you get. You get to talk to people from all over the world and see what their interests are, and then you get to figure out how you can then relate to them through all these little subtle details that is just going to make them feel good when they come to you guys. And I think that's really incredible. The diversity and how much you have to diversify your portfolio of the things that you end up being good at for doing this, even down to, you didn't really even speak on, you're going to go do decor tonight to make, like a top shelf version of a lounge. Is this like what we're thinking of? Like a nice seating area where you get to just kick your feet up and relax and feel good. You might be a couple thousand miles from home, but you're going to feel right at home when you come in.
Exactly.
Where do you get the skills to actually go pick out the pieces and lay it out? And then did you take those skills home where you guys live? So when you guys do your own design at home, do you want it to feel similar to the best places you've ever designed?
Yes, that was very important to us. You guys should come hang out at our apartment sometime. But
I would love to.
Please do come over for dinner.
Please send us some pictures as well.
Sure.
Put it in the group and show people what you're actually talking about. Please describe it to us.
Environment's very important to me. As I got older, I realized that. Like it's really at least I don't know if it's everybody, but I feel and Andrew feels, and we think that it's kind of a human trait to feel more at ease in spaces that you feel are beautiful and calming. And so to be able to create those types of environments is a really cool thing to do. Andrew and I both are lacking any formal education in interior design. Neither one of us really has any type of design background. But I think that we just, this sounds, I don't know, we just have pretty defined personal aesthetics. We know what we like, and I think that kind of through things in our life, we have developed design skills. And when we started working at Revolution, which is a company that I still work for now and Andrew worked for a while, that does decor and design, we were hired completely kind of out of the blue, both at once. We got a phone call when we were on vacation from the creative director over there because she works with Andrew's aunt, who's an event designer and is amazing. And they had been following us and what we were doing, and they believed in our ability and our aesthetic or our taste. Our creative director, she's amazing, but she and I we got married at the same place and helped her find the venue, but just, she saw that we had very similar tastes, that we, had the ability to put spaces together, that we thought about things, that we kind of, I don't know, I guess were able to have the skill set she at least believed that we could be good event producers, and we went in blind. That's it. They gave us a business card and I got clients, and all of a sudden I was designing mitzvahs. And that's been my life for the last 2 years, and I love it. But the coolest thing that came from that was the fact that because we had been working for Firefly for so long, and they knew us as their hospitality team, they allowed us the opportunity to bid on their decor. And through Revolution, we won it. And last year, the first year we did it, we had a lot of help from producers because we had no idea what the fuck we were doing. But last year, Andrew and I sat in our apartment and designed that festival in our living room. And then got to see it come to life, like entrance signs, whole VIPs, whole artist compounds. Like this year, we just spent all day putting all the furniture in the VIP areas, and we designed all of the dressing rooms. And like that to me is bananas. It still feels crazy.
That's badass. You mentioned it, Justin. We'll remind you after too, but if you guys are able, can you, or if you have pictures of other events you've worked, can you shoot us a couple like pictures of these rooms and of these builds so we can show the audience what exactly you guys are capable of doing in your living room? And I say that because, and this is a bigger point, and this is actually, so I record an intro for every show. This is what I'm going to have the intro be about, so I'm going to keep it short now. But everything I'm hearing from you guys, all of the little details, everything you've learned, all the mistakes, all of the small meticulous attention, little details that you pay attention to, I should say, those things can be applied to so many other things aside
100%.
from what you specifically do for work and for your passion. And I'll talk about that, like I said, in the intro. I don't want to bore everybody now, but that's all I keep thinking about is like, wow, whatever, if you guys couldn't do this, like if you couldn't do this starting tomorrow, if it was taken away, I believe you would be successful no matter what you would do as a team together or separately, because the lessons learned here are so universal, even as just functioning as a polite human being. Like, I would imagine that you guys think about courtesies probably more than most people do. Like, I could just see you like in a supermarket holding the door for someone, or like,
all the time.
you know what I mean? Or,
You mean a line of people?
Yeah, no, we're there for 5 minutes holding the door. That's
yeah, and like,
And it's an automatic door.
but the patience too that takes, and what I really respect about all this is that with your work, you have to put other people's needs first. So if that means you don't get a meal because you're helping somebody else, so be it. If you can't do X because someone that you're working for needs Y, it's got to wait. And I think that kind of self-control, that kind of temperance is extremely, it's hard to come by. But again, it's a big lesson, I think, it's a big point to take away from this episode, you know, is what are the fine details of the things you guys do every day, and how can that relate universally to not only work, but to personal life and relationships too. So anyway, I was just, I wanted to say that because hopefully our listeners were already thinking that, but if they weren't, go back and re-listen and take some notes on the fine details to figure out how you can apply it to what you do, you know? So I also know, and Jordan's going to kick into this, but we have some specific questions that we got from our Facebook group for you guys. So, Jordan, do you want to introduce those?
So, Sir Wilson Adams, he's from Nashville, Tennessee, in the United States of America. He asked a bunch of questions, so I'm going to kind of rip through these with you guys. But as far as starting a business together, is this something that both of you were just on board from the start, or did one of you had to do some more convincing?
So, sorry, I would say we were actually both very reluctant. Upon the point that people were saying to us, and we originally were doing this job, we heard from many people, you should start your own business. You should start your own business. And we said, you know, we're not really all that interested. No, thanks. And then we went to go work for Revolution. We had our experience there that we were talking about. It was quite difficult to get through. And it became so clear and apparent that we needed to take our own autonomy and put it into whatever we were going to do from then forth. So at the point that we were actually ready to start this business, which is about, I'd say, a year ago, this is exactly a year pretty much, we were both very much on board after both very much being not on board with this.
Cool.
It happened very organically.
Yeah.
Because Andrew had kind of realized that he wasn't into the sales aspect of being an event producer. It's not fun. It's a lot of meetings and walkthroughs and brides and mitzvahs. Like it's a lot of that. And Live Nation had actually come back to us and said, you know, there isn't anybody that's come into your role in your absence that does a good job. So that was a huge win for us. That was lucky. And because of that, and because we had made a really strong impression in the time that we were doing our job, it enabled us to basically have a full schedule at a venue, or enough promised work that Andrew was secure enough, or we were secure enough in the decision of saying, okay, let's try this. And then it got to be to a point where he was so busy that he needed someone to really handle the admin stuff. And I was still working full-time at Rev, but also, like, you know, wasn't amazingly, I love Revolution, nothing against it. I love my job, but being full-time where you're there 9 to 5 plus events, almost 100 hours a week with no release valve was exhausting. So I knew I needed to make it work for us. And so I talked to my owner, or the owner of our company, who's also an incredibly badass lady. She's amazing. And she was really supportive of our business and our path, and said that I could work full commission on my own schedule. with doing whatever I wanted to do so I could support Andrew in our business. And that's what we've been doing ever since. So I'm still doing weddings and mitzvahs. Hey, holler at me for getting married. But we dedicate a lot of our time, and I dedicate most of my time to the decor aspects of CoCo. So our music festivals and when Live Nation lets us come in and do dressing rooms, which is every so often too.
That's awesome. Well, I just wanted to correct something that you said. You were like, you mentioned Live Nation reaching out to you saying no one did it better, and that's lucky. It's not lucky. No one did it better. That's a testament to the hard work. And what's so cool is that you guys are modest, like extremely modest. And I think that's why I like you. That's the easiest way to say it. But yes, at some point there was luck involved to build the relationship, but the hard work that you guys put in was the reason that it wasn't even a question for them to come back to you and say, no one has done it better. So when you guys say you appreciate those things, like your own trailer or your own golf cart, make sure you think of it that way too. Like, appreciate the hard work and that it wasn't luck that they came back to you. It was proof in the pudding, So just want to say that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next question.
You're a very nice guy, Matthew.
I'm trying to convince people of that, but it's hard.
This is a good platform for you, man. So Wilson follows up. So he's asking about employees, because it's not just the two of you. I mean, with Moonrise this weekend, you have massive responsibility. So you guys have brought on help. So I'm interested in what that process is like for you both being able to agree that this other human being feels good enough to represent you and the business that you've spent a long time building.
Yeah, that has been a journey, to be totally honest with you. We have been running teams or managing teams for the last couple years, but I don't think that either one of us really fully recognized or appreciated the fact that we were actually doing that job, if that makes any sense. At least for Firefly, for a long time, we now know they were just like, hey, you guys are good at doing what you do. We don't know what you do, but do it. And we thought they were building our job description, and they knew that we were building our own job description. So like any management skills have come completely on the fly. We're pretty bad at being authoritative. I think that we're good at being articulate, but we have a very friendly management style. We try to hire only people that we feel good vibes. That sounds so hippy dippy, but like feel good vibes from, and understand them in terms of recognizing traits that we see within ourselves in them. People who are detail oriented and courteous and articulate and smart, driven, but also at the same time, like recognizing that you can have all of those qualities in somebody, but if you don't arm them with the tools that they need and put them in the right situation to succeed, it's not going to be a good situation. So like Andrew had kind of mentioned earlier, it's half finding the right people, half giving them the tools. And I think that's really been the journey for us in becoming more successful as managers.
I'd work for you. So, Justin, man, Matt, you're loving them, aren't you?
I love this.
Oh.
So,
But to go back to that point, you said you had to learn all this management stuff on the fly. Mm-hmm. But I mean, to be honest, I think Andrew over here has a bit of experience. We did have one class together at university, in the business school, and I feel like we got tons of value out of our one class that he would be using to this day if he wants to speak on what that value actually was. Do you want to tell people like look, we were in.
Wait,
Yeah.
what? Hold on. First off, what was the class, Andrew, that you guys were in together?
Business law.
Yeah, I think it was business law.
Okay, so it was a business law class.
Business law class, yeah.
Where did
And
you sit?
where did you
Sat in the
sit?
very back.
You sat in the very back.
We did.
What did you? Oh, what did you do in class?
Wait. The professor told us that you would get the most out of this class sitting in the back, giggling profusely the whole time. That the life skills you're learning currently in this class of Justin and Andrew, the two of you sitting in the back, doing what you're currently doing, you're learning a lot of stuff, good stuff, for the future. We were booking shows,
And we were indeed.
and we were having a great time. And I feel like did you get anything from school that gave you some fire moving forward? He's being bashful.
No. To be honest, yeah. So we sat in the back. We probably didn't pay as much attention as we could have. I think we got C's, average.
We passed.
We passed it or whatever. But I think that what came out of that was obviously recognizing that if your heart isn't in something, if it's something you're interested in, it's not really worth your time pursuing because you're just going to be okay at it.
I think that's very well said. Yeah. I think both of us could have just been like we talked about playing those shows and having a great time. The culture that was being created and the memories, and then all these business lessons we were learning. We could have been doing that outside of school. We didn't really need to be there for that. But I feel like maybe we did take something away from those moments.
I think. Well, you need that. You kind of need to feel that and grade up against that to have the recognition that I'd rather prioritize my time somewhere else, my focus somewhere else, and that you have the perspective. I'm never going to wonder what it's like to be a lawyer in a business sense because I've already looked into an introductory class and I just wasn't really vibing on that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it made us really appreciate the business work we were doing outside of school versus what we were learning inside of school.
Correct.
So it was cool. So we have another question from
Chocolate Croissant Facebook member superfan Jeffrey Blake.
of Remington.
What up, Jeff Blake?
He will actually be a guest at some point on this show. He's a brilliant and just kind guy.
He had a couple great questions, of which we've already gotten into, talking about crazy experiences, working with other artists, and talking about the work-life balance. But he did have a great question in, what are some roadblocks that you've overcome working in the industry, and what actionable advice would you give to anyone getting into the service or the music industry?
I'd say always strive to do the right thing and just keep pushing forward. For a number of years, a gentleman that we worked with wouldn't even acknowledge me, but we kept working with them, because we loved the work and we kept pushing forward. And the crews that were coming in and the artists we were working with, we got satisfaction out of that. And it was interesting to figure out how to work with this person and recognize a great opportunity that was in front of us and how to make that work for us. And so just being able to also recognize that you can, whatever your environmental things, you can shift that dynamic to work in your interest. And if you can, it's time to find a different place to be.
Yeah.
That does suit that.
I think one of the reasons that we are happiest, we have so much work to do and things we want to do, and we're by no means at our ending point. But I think the reason that we are so content and happy where we are now is because we've taken a really hard look at what was making us unhappy in some work situations that weren't driving for us, that weren't really in alignment with where we were headed. And we took a look at how we could change them to be more in line with what we wanted to do and what our goals were. And that was a hard process. There was a possibility that my boss could have said, you know what? Maybe this isn't time for you to work for this company anymore instead of letting me be freelance. There were some scary parts of that and big risks that we took. But at the end of the day, we are able to control our time and do the projects that we want to do because of those choices that we made. And kind of piggybacking off of Andrew as well, we've worked for we have some great bosses that I love and mentors that we really look to for advice and guidance, but we've worked for some fucking assholes. And I think that it's what you learn from working for terrible people that makes you a better business owner and a better manager and a better person. But yeah, I think that the biggest roadblocks we came up against in our career were just shitty situations that we took stock of and kind of sussed out and then figured out how to adapt from in a way that was going to move us forward and not just sit on the fact that this was a shitty situation.
Right. Being proactive rather than reactive to your...
For sure.
Well, you said change the environment you're in, right? Mm-hmm. Take what's good from it, use it, but shift the environment to a place where it's more safe. I don't even know if that's the word I'm looking for, but yeah, where you can actually use what you've learned and have your situation be thriving rather than being stepped on, I guess is the point. I had a question. When you guys have been waiting to see if you're going to get like the bid or if you're going to get the gig, or wondering what your boss is going to say when you go and sit down and present to her what you're trying to do, those can obviously, those can be stressful experiences. And I think there's a lot of listeners who go through similar things, whether it's waiting to find out what they got on a grade, trying to figure out which direction to go in when they are unhappy but don't know how to break free of it and how to take that jump. I mean, not big picture, but you guys are going to bed, you're laying awake wondering what is going to happen. How do you deal with it? And do you talk about it? Do you write it down? Do you internalize it? Like, how do you, I guess my point is when something's up in the air that's really decisive for your lives, how do you still go through your day by days? Does that make sense?
7-Eleven pizza and wine.
7-Eleven pizza?
Hey, it's good, man.
Andrew really loves 7-Eleven pizza. Those 3 weeks in January building the Firefly bid is like the worst period of our lives.
That's what I'm saying. So what do you do? So how do you put it, kind of compartmentalize it?
So, I mean, to be honest, and I'm sorry to pull this card, but like going back to earlier on in the conversation, we were talking about, going on tour a couple weeks after my father passed away. Doing that, and I think for both of us, also going through that experience and also recognizing that if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, you'll walk a mile eventually. Like if you just keep trudging forward, as uncomfortable as it is, you'll eventually at least get through, or basically the situation has to work out because it has to one way or another.
Yeah.
So we just keep stock of the things that we appreciate in our lives, and we get up every day and we just keep moving forward because at the end of the day, we have to have faith that that's going to take us where we need to go. And if that doesn't do that in the immediate, hoping that it does in the long term.
Trying to find the value in if you don't get the job or the thing that you really want, because there's been lots of stuff that we've really wanted that seemed perfect and exactly, going towards where we wanted to go that didn't work out. And at the end of the day, you just have to kind of come to accept that that's not meant for you. And there are other things that are going to come down the line that, it sucks in the immediate and you feel, we just get comfortable feeling not shitty, but like you feel nervous. You're going to feel nervous for those 3 weeks when you're waiting to hear back. That's okay. Sit in that. But if it doesn't end up going the way that you want it to, that's also okay. That doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't make you bad at your job. It just means that this wasn't the right circumstance. This wasn't the right opportunity. And then you figure out how to grow from it and you move on.
Probably listen to chocolate croissants.
Probably just listen to a bunch of chocolate croissants.
Nice. Do you and eat chocolate croissants?
That too.
Drew, I bet you know some good chocolate croissants somewhere. Has that been on the rider?
That hasn't been. I was surprised you guys didn't send me one over on the way here, but
No way. You guys should have sent us one. Like totally. Okay, that's really cool. It's cool to hear that you guys do go through that, but as you said, you just kind of sit in it, and you realize too probably that it's out of your control to some degree. You've done all the work that you could. You've worked as hard as you could, put in the bid, and now you wait.
right.
So, I mean, hopefully there's something to be taken from that.
Absolutely. I had a final question. I know the most cliche thing to ask you guys is like, what's the craziest thing that's ever been asked on a rider? So I'm not going to do that. But when I was thinking of some spin to it, I realized I can just ask you, like, what question haven't you been asked that you're surprised hasn't been asked yet?
Just put us on the spot.
Do, 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 do.
I don't know. That's a hard one.
Especially if you're trying to be PG about it.
Yeah.
You don't
Why?
have to be PG. Ready? Fuck. Shit.
I don't know, man. There's a lot of
being a married couple in the music industry, I'm surprised more people don't ask, and I'm not saying anything has happened, but don't ask, like, do you ever do anything in somebody's dressing room? I think that, never mind. Okay.
Is there anything crazy that you guys would put on that you haven't seen for you two, if you two were doing a show?
Wait. I have an even better way to ask that question. What's your rider?
We know this one.
Give me 5 to 10 rider items.
Milagro Silver Tequila.
Yep.
Okay.
An espresso machine with pods.
Okay.
Diet Peach Snapple.
That's 3.
Andrew's against that one.
It's
Gotta
a big
keep
one.
the lady happy.
We're gonna
Go for it.
wait. We're gonna let you each do this, by the way. So don't even worry about it.
Okay. Fresh salsa, like pico de gallo salsa, with some like grocery store fried up tortilla chips and a bottle of Cholula. Done.
So that's it. That's
it.
all you need on your rider.
That's all I need. Because honestly, if I was going out on tour, I would have an assistant. And now as a dressing room person, if there's anything embarrassing or really specific that I need, I would send out my assistant. So the dressing room person doesn't need to
Somebody's
know my
bad and
business.
bougie.
Got it.
That's all I have to say.
Okay. Andrew, give us your list.
There's going to be a good bit of overlap here, but definitely some Milagro. Also, good chips, fresh salsa. Probably, I'd say a little bit of charcuterie, just because I know it makes.
What's your favorite kind of meat for charcuterie? Do you have a preference? Like I like mortadella. Oof. I mean, it's not even really like
Right.
charcuterie kind of meat, but it's good old Italian meat. It's
I like
delicious.
soppressata, like just something with a little bit more spice to it.
Okay. Have you guys ever gone to Di Pasquale's down in Baltimore
Absolutely.
to provide for your clients?
Yeah, there as well as right down the road from here, Parts and Labor.
Parts and
They
Labor.
do an awesome. It's come back to me on
The
that.
beef tartare burger.
The chicken feet.
No.
They do like a lamb sub, like they do some
Oh yeah,
sausages.
sorry. It's a lamb prosciutto.
Oh,
The lamb prosciutto, right?
I will say, as a side note, this job has made us have the most ridiculously expensive tastes. It's the worst.
Right.
I would imagine so.
Oh, yeah,
All right, so
Hannah-
I have.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was
Finish.
saying Hannah, I think, left off of her rider either Diptyque or
Oh.
Joe Malone candles.
Like famous people like really fancy candles, like
Okay.
$75, $80 a thing candles. Those are the greatest. If I could ask for
Are
that.
these like scented candles, almost like Yankee, or but the same kind of thing?
Yes, but
But-
there's two specific brands. That
And what are they
people-
again?
Diptyque and Joe Malone.
Diptyque and Joe Malone. I'm gonna
There's
remember those.
one candle that I have to buy that has the essence of 1,500 rosebuds in one candle.
Wow.
It sounds really stupid, but it
Sounds-
smells like
Sounds
$65.
like you know what you're doing for your anniversary, Andrew.
Absolutely.
That's what I ask for my birthday every year.
He's gonna set up a room, right, and with 1,500 rose petals and the
Absolutely.
candle in the center, and see if we can turn it into 3,000 rose petals. Okay,
Yeah. So
that's right. With myself,
and then so a little bit of harmless harvest coconut water, going with that. And
Okay.
then
That was something to tell your horoscope?
He said no. He said
Harmless
harmless harvest
Harvest.
coconut water,
Yeah.
which is great. And
Yeah.
is it true that with that brand of or with any coconut water, the more pink it is, the better? Is that correct?
So it's interesting because it's not all that much of a rarity anymore. As Harmless Harvest has become more popular, you see much more pink, and I'm not sure if that's because they figured out how to process it in a way that it does that. But it's because it is a raw coconut water. There's some sort of, I believe, bacteria in there.
It's
or some-
delicious.
It's phenomenal.
It's so good.
good.
Yeah, I've had it. It's so expensive, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, it is quite good. They have a weird like bottle shape now. There's also another weird thing. I love packaging design, and so the bottle now like twists, but I'll still drink it. It's delicious.
We also, weird side note, we're taking basically taking off 3.5 weeks in January and going to Thailand. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that we love that Harmless Harvest coconut water so much. I just want a coconut, I'm going to chop the top off and figure out whether or not it tastes as good as Harmless
I
Harvest.
buy those coconuts at Fresh Market every now and then.
Agreed.
It's
And
great.
You just, yeah. hack it away, make a big mess, but then the inside's awesome. All right, I have a question just going along this line for you, Andrew.
Go for it.
What is your favorite dark chocolate? Favorite brand of dark chocolate? If an artist said premium dark chocolate on the rider, that's all they said. They didn't give you a brand. What would you? What would be like 2 or 3 brands that you would offer? And I know Justin likes this question too.
Right. It might be a little old school, but I'm actually a really big fan of Lindt.
Okay.
I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
You got it. Matt hates it.
I was gonna say, don't say Lindt.
See, and the thing is that I don't even really love their dark chocolate, but their milk chocolate is so freaking good. So anyway, so by brand association, big fan of that. Green and blacks is usually pretty classic. I mean, you have to remember with dressing rooms and all that, like I have to toe a fine line between finding things that I really love and also finding things that will be, to a certain extent, brand recognizable or attractive, because the most that you can glean about it when you come in is, do I know it or does it look good? So let's say I'm getting a bottle of wine, does the label look good? And that's not always indicative of if it's a good bottle of wine, but your perception of that is something that is pretty important.
As important as the aesthetic, I imagine that you still have to keep to a budget at some point, right? You can't just go blow. Can you blow a $12 chocolate bar just because it said it was made next to volcanic ash in Hawaii?
Depends.
Yeah. We came from a place where, and this is different for other people, we're talking about like the people who do our job, on a scale, when you talk about someone who works for a club where they're bringing in an act that maybe didn't sell out the whole room, they're not going to want to provide the whole rider. But we were lucky to do stadium shows, to do national tours where people are definitely deserving of their full rider. So we were able to kind of have the space of digging into that side of it.
Right.
So we do go all out. Andrew, one year for Firefly, had 4 raw juices shipped with dry ice from LA because a specific band wanted that juice. And we spent, I think, $150 on like
It had to be
4
cold
bottles
packed
of juice. And that's just what it was because the artist wanted it, you know? It's not always like that, but it definitely can get to that point for sure.
Do you two get to do the shop together, or is this something that Andrew goes meticulously through and then does a lot of the shop or the organization for? Because it seems like this would be team building. This would be super fun. It would be a cute date to go on that you guys can be like, yeah, let's go shop. And then you find all these things. You end up finding all of these things, and you go, wow, this is amazing. Let's get these for ourselves. We have to have a couple of these around.
We
Right.
save a lot on our grocery bill because we get to take home a lot of extra shit, which is also great. But we love Wegmans. We are odd in the fact that we love grocery shopping.
Wait, I've seen you two at Wegmans
Yeah.
shopping for a rider, right? That's
Yeah.
great.
This part would be Justin's dream. This is like your dream to right. Yeah.
I mean, I went back to school to be a dietitian because I like wandering the grocery store. I'm huge on aesthetics. So when I buy wine, I don't know anything about wine. Wegmans has $4 bottle of wines. You know, it's like $6 bottle of wine. If it looks really good, go for it.
Yep.
Jordan over here looks like he has a question.
What do you guys think of my wine? Fucking dark horse.
It's delicious.
I'm actually surprisingly, I like it actually. It's pretty nice.
That's actually from that liquor store next to Wegmans.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a good one. It's bad. Like people at Wegmans knew us by name and like, I don't know how, I guess because we shop there so frequently and we would utilize the same shopper card. We ended up on the list every year at the end of the year as the 10 top purchasers. Wow. So Wegmans would send us a Christmas gift that has like an Italian spice set and a cheesecake coupon and a $50 gift card because you spend so much money in their store and like people knew us. It was kind of embarrassing and kind of cool. And a lot of times people either think that we have 17 kids or we're extreme couponers, which
We're
both
alcoholics.
sound really cool. But when we went away and we would go grocery shopping at Wegmans when we weren't doing rider shops, people would be like, what are you doing? Where's like the rest of the carts that you have to check out? And so it was fun to kind of get back into the swing of things and get into shopping at Wegmans again more. But we try to do it together. Andrew does the majority of it now because I'm so busy with other events. But yeah.
Nothing says we appreciate your customer loyalty than a cheesecake coupon.
I agree. I totally agree. I think your mom's really pissed that we don't share that with her anymore.
Wow.
Right?
We're going to, don't answer that, Andrew. But I was going to say hashtag relationship goals. Because I want to go shop at Wegmans.
Stealing from your mom.
Matt and I are going to try to get in that top 10 list together.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool club to be in, guys.
That's the relationship goal. That's what I'm saying. We can
Our relationship goal.
any.
Do you share a phone number on your shopper's card?
We should do that.
We do
should.
now.
We will.
Cool.
That's
the goal.
We share more than
you
just
have to aggregate multiple people.
I will say, shout out to Andrew's mom. She also utilized that card or that number. So when she shopped at Wegmans, she was adding to our total. She has claim on that cheesecake too. I'm a jerk.
So the lesson there is to make sure that your moms are all.
Oh
on
yeah.
your
No, my
shoppers' cards
mom
for whatever
gets my
supermarket.
gas rewards at Giant. That's like our goal. That's our deal.
Pay it forward.
Yeah,
forward.
absolutely.
All right, Jordan. So
Let's take this home.
Let's
It's
take this
diving
home.
off a fucking cliff right now.
So I loved this conversation. It was really cool for me to hear from you guys more detail into what you do. I've known what you guys have been doing for a long time. We've crossed paths. I feel like working somewhere. I don't remember where it was, but and obviously I've known you guys for a while anyway. But yeah, it's just so cool to see what goes into it. Having worked with many people that do your job at different festivals and things like that. I always have this very high level of respect for these people, for people like yourselves, because you're working with some of the most particular people in the world. And I don't know if I have the patience to deal with that. So I have the utmost respect for you guys, because I think at the core of what you do, you have to exercise this immense sense of patience and listening really well, and like being able to understand and almost sort of interpret other people's needs. And that I just respect it a lot. So hopefully other people do that as well, and hopefully you guys don't get shit on ever, because that'd be rude. So there you go. So Jordan.
So we will wrap this up because you too, Andrew and Hannah, you have to like go to work now, even though it's past 10 p.m.
Yep.
That goes into that. I think we call it a site date.
Yeah.
We're on site having a date together. Yep.
Yep. That's. I mean, I guess that's the most positive way to put it. So I'll go with that.
Yeah.
So I always take notes during these interviews, and a lot of that is to pull audio clips, so to kind of know where the time cue is, and even just quotes to put on the graphics. I have written like double the amount than I ever have with you guys. So well done on that. You guys were incredible guests. We really appreciate you guys taking the time during like a work night for you to be here. And you two were one of the guests that we all immediately agreed on having. So we're very happy to have done this with you guys. I want to give both of you respect equally. Andrew for being seems like an incredible husband who elevates his woman every day. Hannah, I want to offer you respect for using bananas as an adjective twice in this podcast.
Oh.
And for CoCo Hospitality, for having like a nice story and brand and personality that I can see why people come back to you time and time again. So much respect to you guys. For everyone listening, we want to offer you our respect and sincere thank you for your attention, as always. Next week, we're going to have a really, really unique and amazing guest. His name is Daniel. He's a veteran. He has gone through drug addiction. He just had one of his arms completely removed surgically. He is an incredible guy that Justin met in his nutrition program. It's a very, very inspiring story of someone who's had incredible lows, but his resilience is so inspiring to me, and we're very excited to share his story with all of you. Again, we have a Facebook group. The engagement in this past week has been amazing. Facebook.com/groups/chocolate croissants. If you've been thinking about joining, seriously, fucking do it. We'll accept you. You don't have to engage right away. Just check out the engagement that is going on in these conversations. And if you feel comfortable, introduce yourself and maybe find ways to chime in these conversations. Even if you want to start your own thread, as many do every single day, we think you'll find a lot of value in it. If you have found value in these episodes, we want to ask something very simple of you. If you have an iPhone in your hand right now or in your pocket, if you could take it out, there's an app that you can't avoid. It's called Podcasts. If you type in chocolate croissants on the top right, there's a button that says subscribe. If you hit that, you will get every one of our episodes every single Monday morning to start your week with. The downloads versus just simple streams actually helps us a lot. And if you'd be willing to subscribe, we'd appreciate that. You can also rate and review in iTunes or Apple Podcasts. That helps us tremendously as well. Again, we want to thank Andrew. We want to thank Hanna. Cohen is their last name. CoCoHospitality.com.
The web, we're also kind of in a weird spot. Thankfully, we've been very busy and we're really crappy at social media and our online presence. So disclaimer on that, we're working on it. We're going to get around to it, but our website's not quite there. So don't judge us super harshly.
No. I was on it. Prepping for this. It's fucking beautiful.
Thank you.
No, honestly, and I actually regret not bringing it up, but your website is like super professional and the written copy is very effective. So well done. The pictures are great. And all these little things, just like the attention to detail that you guys, provide in your service with the hospitality, all these things add up to get you the business that you guys been getting day in and day out. So well done and much respect on that.
Thank you so much for having us.
To those of you listening, well done for making it this far. Join us in the Facebook group this week. Next week, we will be back here in your podcast app of choice. And until then, bye-bye.